Right, good afternoon class. We're going to see another example here to do with your living accommodation. Now this applies to student for F6. Now again, the P6 students can actually look at this to recall back rules on how you deal with employment income. Okay. Alright, so when you are given living accommodation benefit, now we're dealing with cases for employment in the non-public sector. That means you are not working with the government, okay? Right, so usually what we need to decide is first we must know which type of employee are you in, okay? And I basically divide it into two. Now you can actually be a non-service director of a controlled company, or you just fall into the other group, all others. Alright, so what's a non-service director of controlled company? So remember class, there's two definitions here. So non-service director, controlled company. Now the law only defines service director. So a service director will need two requirements. Number one, the capacity. Service directors involved in technical managerial capacity. And number two, the maximum ordinary share capital that service director can have is 5%. So if anything exceeding 5%, we'll put director as a non-service category. And what is a controlled company? Now, a controlled company means it's a company that you only have maximum 50 members and you control by maximum 5%. Okay, now I've covered a couple of examples in the class that if you've forgotten, please go back and run through the example to know how to test whether a company is controlled, whether its director is service or non-service. Alright, so if you fall under all others, and most of us fall under all others, so how do you decide the value of your 13(1)(c) living accommodation? Now we look at the kind of accommodation that you're given. So as usual, I just call them as a normal accommodation and the special accommodation for simplicity's sake. So special are those cases that you're given accommodation in hotel, hostel, in estates and so on. Whereas when you're given houses, bungalow, flats, condo, it's where normal comes in, okay? Right, so for all others, if you're given this kind of so-called the normal accommodation, the value of 13(1)(c) is determined by taking 30% of your 1A compared with the defined value. And this defined value, you need to adjust them if there's any element of sharing, if there's any element of usage. If let's say they mention accommodation is too large for your own use, then you only take the percentage that relates to your own usage. So you've got to do adjustment for this and you choose the lower. Now if it's just a special accommodation, then the rule will simply be 3% of 1A, that's it. So there's no higher or lower. Now again, what is defined value? Now defined value is defined as what? Number one, it's the rental. You must have the arm's length rental. Now what if the property is not rented, or what if there's no arm's length rental? Now in the event that there's no rental, then you go for the rateable value, agree? And again, if you don't have rateable value, your last choice is to go for the economic rent. So again, if you've forgotten the definitions of all these, please just go back to the notes and run through, just make sure that you know them. Alright, so this is how you determine the value of 13(1)(c). Now if you fall into the group of non-service director, then it's quite simple. You just have to use the defined value of the living accommodation. So you're not allowed to do any adjustment in the sense that you don't do comparison. Okay, you don't use the 30%, choose the lower. You don't have to do all that. You just use defined value. Okay. Now of course, you might not be given accommodation for the entire basis period, so always remember that if your accommodation benefit is not given for a full period, then please time apportion your value. Alright, now generally the rule is pretty straightforward. Just remember, this is the main rule. Okay, so from here you just apply them to the figures. Now I've given you an example over here. Alright, now we say Brian is employed by Blue at the monthly salary of 5,000. He's given travelling allowance, telephone allowance at 8 and 200 respectively, and he spent 5,700 for business travelling. So this is expenses that you're going to claim. So let me just highlight this. There's a free personal club membership. So personal means the worker owns it. So anything given to you, remember the test, how to decide A or B. One is ownership test, one is the responsibility of payment test. So this is 1A, something that belongs to the worker. And both entrance subscriptions are subject to tax. There is a second-hand car which is acquired by Blue at a price of 90,000 when this is 6 years old. Cost of car when new is 210. The private usage agreed to be 40%, and formula method is used to ascertain the value of the benefit. Now you're going to use formula. Formula should apply the actual cost. You're not going to see the table, okay? Right, from 1st January to 31st March 2012, Brian is given accommodation in hotel. So hotel for the first 3 months. And Blue has paid 6,000 for the hotel stay, and subsequently a fully furnished house is given. So it's fully furnished. So this is where benefit comes in. Okay, so the house is given, is rented by Blue at 3,600 per month, of which 600 is for furnishing. So the house alone is 3,000. Now both accommodations are shared with another worker. So this is sharing element. However, the accommodation benefit is withdrawn on 1st of August 2012. So it's not for the whole year. So we can see that first 3 months is hotel. Then after that, from the month of April, so it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That means another 6 months is a house. Okay, so that's all. Okay, now they say that instead Brian is given 300,000 employee loan to buy his own house, and Blue has taken the loan from RHB Bank at the interest cost of 8,000 and subsidized 3/4 of the interest for Brian. So that means they actually take 75% of the cost and 25% is charged onto Brian. Now again, you have this employee loan. There will be an exemption applied because the loan is used to buy a house. The loan balance at the end of the year is 270,000. So the loan is given on 1st of October, and then the balance on the end of the year is this. So we're going to work out how much exemption applies to Brian. Okay. Alright, now so we're going to try and solve the problem. The key focus is accommodation, but we've got a couple of things here. Okay. Alright, so I want to compute the statutory income for Brian's employment for year of assessment 2012. Alright, now class, start is the employment. The gross, we classified them into the types under A, B and C. Right, what goes under 13(1)A, salary, 5,000 for 12 months, 60k. Right, then the travelling allowance. Now the travelling allowance is 800. So exemption applies up to 6,000. So there'll be 3,006 accessible. Now you must understand telephone allowance is not telephone benefit. So telephone benefit is given an exemption, but a fixed allowance for the use of telephone has no exemption. So this 200 is accessible in full. Okay. Alright, now the personal club membership, something that the worker owns it, so it says 13(1)(a). So both the entrance, subscription are accessible. Right, then we have car. Okay, we have car, then we have accommodation. Okay, so we have nothing much left except the interest subsidy. Okay, so you can just leave lines. Okay, so just move on in sequence so that you don't miss out anything. Okay, so 13(1)(b). Alright, now the car is assessed using formula. So what's the formula for car? Now you must take the cost of the car, and the formula is divided by 8 years. The prescribed life is 8 years, multiplied by 80%. Okay, so that's the formula to determine your car benefit. And if formula method is used, you're allowed to do adjustment for usage. Now you're going to assess based on the private usage, which is 40%. So the value is 3,006. Right, then the next thing is we're aware of the furniture. Now fully furnished has a prescribed value of 280. Now we see that Brian is sharing accommodation, so you have to adjust this by half. And the house is only given for a period of 6 months. So the value of benefit is 240. Alright, so how do you determine the value of 13(1)(c)? Now there's two accommodations we're having over here. First is the hotel. So to determine value of hotel, we're using 3% of 1C. Okay, we're using 3% of 1A. Now, but we've not finished off 1A. Okay, so the last thing in 1A is actually the interest subsidy. So let me just finish this off, then I can work out the value of 1C. Now the interest subsidy. Now you've been subsidized 3/4 of the interest, which means the subsidy is 6,000. So Brian is paying 2,000, 6,000 is paid by the employer, and you're going to minus the exemption. So how much exemption you're going to get? Now the subsidy is 6,000, so you're going to multiply with what? Right, the figure on top is 300,000 or the loan balance, whichever lower. So in this case, the balance is 270. And the value at the bottom is your principal amount of the loan, right, which is 300. So the exemption will actually be 5,004. So the value to assess 600. Right, class, that's all to do with 13(1)(a). So if you add up all these things together, (13)(1)(a) is 79,006. So we're going to take 3% of 1A, which is 79,006, and you're going to apportion. Okay, so 3 out of 12 months. So the value is 597. Right, you're not going to do any apportionment for sharing. So please see carefully. All this adjustment is at the defined value stage. So this is just 3% of 1A. So I don't care whether you share or not, it's just 3% of 1A. Now you have to do the hotel and the house separately. Okay, so it's two different accommodation. Now, so when the house is given, the value is ascertained by taking 30% of 1A. So 30% of 796 will be 23,880, and defined value. So you've been told the rental is 3,000 per month. Now remember, you must multiply according to the value based on A. So you have a 12 months basis period, so you have to multiply with 12 months over here, and not 6 months, which is a common mistake. Okay, you must be consistent in your comparison. So it's 3,000 times 12, and you share. So sharing is half shared by 2%, so that is giving us 18,000. So lower of the two is 18,000. So class, here is where you do your time apportionment, because you only stay in the house for 6 months, whereas the value is for 12 months. So after the apportionment, the value is 9,000. Alright, so solve all the figures we have here. So in total, this is the gross income for Brian. Now remember, we highlighted the expenses for traveling. So the business traveling. Now the amount is just 5,700. Since the exemption taken is 6,000, which exceed the amount of 5,700, so this exhausted all the expenses that you can claim. So there's no deduction here, and that will be the adjusted statutory income. For Brian. Okay, right, so that's how you determine value of 1C. Okay, now class, what if the question stated that Brian is a non-service director of a control company? Okay, so I just want to just do a quick show, a change to the figure over here. They're assuming that if he's a non-service director of control company, then you will not use the formula of 3%. Instead, you will apply defined value. And the defined value of the hotel is 6,000. Okay, 6,000. Right, if look at a house, we're not gonna do the comparison as well. If it's a non-service director, we just use defined value. And defined value of the house is 3,000 for 6 months. And of course, this is a sharing of the accommodation, so it's just going to multiply by half. So this is what value going to be. It's going to be 9K. Okay, so this is going to be much simpler, that you do not need to have all these complicated comparisons. So just take defined value if Brian is a non-service director of control company. Okay, alright, so again, this example is to illustrate how you apply rules on living accommodation. At the same time, in the example, I have covered some other things on employment income. Alright class, thank you very much. Happy revising.